All right, this is your creation. My name is Starseed Bey. How everyone's doing today? This should be another interesting video. I was really, just throughout today, I just really had a lot of interesting things that the Spirit was guiding me to look at. Some stuff I didn't really have interest in, but something led me to just kind of just pay attention and observe. Um, And throughout the week, I just been kind of just in a quickening state, which basically means, just getting into a deeper meditation, taking care of yourself, looking within yourself, and relaxing, um, and taking it easy. That's basically it. And it's hard for me because there's so much that I want to do. Even today, I really felt like, there was a lot more I could have done. Um, but patience came into play and just observing, just observing everything. October is a pretty rough and interesting experience. It really is. It's basically the time of uprising for like witchcraft and sacrifices and rituals and all of that crap. That's the real deal. This stuff happens in our daily lives, whether we're aware of it or not. So we're going to be talking about that. Definitely a very interesting subject to talk about, but it needs to be addressed. It really does. So let me go ahead and plug myself, and then we'll get started here. So if this is your first time watching me, I'm on YouTube and Facebook. So definitely, if you're on YouTube, definitely like, subscribe, share it out. I talk about many different things from spirituality to things that are going on around the world, and we talk about different subjects, just like we're talking about today. So definitely share out the page. I'm also on facebook.com/Real Talk Starseed Bey. So definitely like the page out, share it out, and let me know any kind of feedback, or questions that you have on there. I'm also on patreon.com/Adam Starseed Bey, so you can definitely check me out there as well. So yeah, so witches and tarot cards and Jesus Christ all in one title. um, it's a very controversial thing, and in the Bible, Christ and a lot of churches don't talk about this, but Christ was probably one of the most interesting characters in that time frame. Interesting characters, and that means that he was perceived raising the dead, healing people, casting out demons, and all this stuff. It was really causing an uprise in all of those areas, right? Because he left his hometown and he just adventured out there. He got disciples and he taught his disciples these same kind of occult or sacred knowledge. Sacred knowledge. It's not something you learn overnight. And it's not something that you play around with. It's very intense. I mean, casting out demons, that gets pretty crazy. If you guys ever watch real poltergeist type stuff of real priests and pastors casting out demons out of people, man, it gets pretty intense. It gets pretty crazy, and it becomes a real reality. A lot of people don't realize, that there are spirits that possess people, and it literally drives them mad. And it's crazy. Their eyes will turn pure black. It's very interesting. There's a lot of real testimonies out there, and it really astonishes scientists. It astonishes um, atheists, who don't believe in Christ or God or things of that nature. It's a phenomenon that's very real, and it's what was talked about in the Bible. So, I mean, there's a lot of things you have to go through, and a lot of the ancient tongues are spoken as well. So, like with it being in Hebrew, when they cast out demons and stuff, they use the real Hebrew prayer. It's not the English prayer, it's the real Hebrew prayer. And that's something that I need to learn myself. But they speak in Hebrew because that was the true language at the time. Or at least it works. It works. They use the Hebrew language and it works. It casts demons out. There's even was a guy, I don't know his name, that could literally contact UFOs using the Hebrew language as well, and it was caught on news and things like that. So it's quite fascinating, it really is. But since it being October, is definitely that time for a lot of occult rituals that take place. I mean, and it gets pretty intense. Like for me personally, I get real tired around this time because of just all the energies are just really crazy and chaotic, and it can get you into a state you don't want to be in. A lot of people get depressed during this time. Suicides are at a higher rate, and just a lot of interesting stuff. So I mean, that's where you really have to have a foundation in your life, a go home to place, a sacred place that you can go to. Praying, meditation. It's that place where you need to find that kind of peace, that surrender, that forgiveness um, within your life, so you can get rid of that chaotic state or those energies that surround us. Because a lot of us are really in tune with energies, and we really think that a lot of the energies that attach to us, whether it be anxiety, doubt, depression, um, those kind of things, it can really hinder your life, and you think there's something wrong with you, but it's really somebody else that surrounds you that are having those kind of encounters or having those kind of spirits or those familiar spirits that are attached to them. So it's pretty interesting. So we're going to be talking about scriptures, and we're going to look at some of the early witch trials that took place back then. We'll probably look at some other things as well, because this is definitely something that I've been researching and talking about, and a lot too is that a lot of people perform rituals in our daily lives and aren't even aware of it. So it's definitely quite interesting. So we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the witch trials, and this stuff happened between the 16th and 17th centuries, and this was a huge phenomenon back then. And it says mainly the stuff happened in Europe, so it's quite interesting. Let's see, and it kind of shows like where everything happened. So like there was some that was in France and Switzerland, and that was like in the early 1400s. Italy, Germany, England, Scotland, Denmark, Spain, France, England, the Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden, England, Germany. There's a lot of Germany stuff in there. And it just keeps going on there. And that's where, and that's where you really realize too when you look into encounters like, like I like to watch like Ghost Adventures and other kind of ghost areas, or just learn about the rich history of these lands. Like England has a huge base for occult rituals, and as well as mythology like the werewolves and the vampires, things like that. Same in London. Germany is known for its more of research, scientific discoveries, as well as a lot of another cult practices as well. So it's definitely quite fascinating. Scotland has a lot of rich history with ghosts and paranormal activities as well. So it's quite interesting. And then America itself, or the United States, between the 1600s, towards the end, there was the Salem witch trials as well. So all of the witches kind of migrated to America at one time and then tried to venture over into other areas. So basically, and this is a website called Witchcraft and Witches.com, and it just kind of talks about the trials of witches. So I'll go ahead and read this and we'll go from there. Outbreaks of witchcraft hysteria with subsequent mass executions began in the early 16th century in Europe. Although the Reformation divided Europe between Protestant regions and those loyal to the Pope, the Protestants, I hope I'm saying that right, took the crime of witchcraft no less seriously, arguably even more so than the Catholics. The vast majority of those who fell under suspicion of witchcraft were women, which I find interesting, who were regarded by witch hunters as especially susceptible to the devil's uh, the devil's encounter, I guess you could say. I don't know what that word is. Some of these reputed witches were thought to hold ceremonies called witches' Sabbaths, which parodied the Christian Mass. Other practices which came to be associated with witches included the riding by night on broomsticks, the pact with the devil, the formal repudiation of Christianity, and the desecration of the Eucharist and crucifix, and secret nocturnal meetings involving orgies, sacrificial infants, you know what that means, and even cannibalism. Other accusations were of the power to cause impotence or disease, or to cause infants to be stillborn, to turn milk sour, to prevent cows from giving milk, to change form, and to hair other animals, which is interesting. I have some interesting things on that. Hey, how's it going, Ash? How's it going, Aaron? Um, let's see. To sickle familiar spirits from warts or other marks, and even to sell on a single plank or in an eggshell. Some are accused merely because they kept cats, which were thought to be familiars or demons, given the witches by the devil to act as adversaries and messengers. According to witch hunters during the height of the witch trials, a witch's mark, also called a devil's mark or witch's teat, I guess, was sufficient indication that an individual was a witch. Identified witches' marks may have been like moles, scars, birthmarks, skin tags, and so on and so forth. A witch's tat was associated with the feeding of familiars or of the devil himself. A common witch hunting method was swimming or ducking, based on the ancient ordeal by water, whereby the accused was tied hand and foot and immersed in deep water. If the accuser, which floated, the water god's creature or creator, had rejected her, and she was deemed guilty. If she sank and drowned, she was deemed innocent. Which is sad, because that means a lot of innocent people died during those times. So, I mean, that ends up causing more angry spirits as well. That's something I have to look at too, because, I mean, this was definitely very interesting. The accused could also be pricked all over with a sharp instrument known as pricking in the search for insensitive spots where the devil had visibly or invisibly marked them. Other more traditional tortures were also used to elicit confessions and accusations against accomplices, including thumb screws, leg vices, whipping stocks with iron spikes, scolding lime baths, prayer stools varnished with sharp pegs, racks, and so on and so forth. Holy moly, man. Definitely not a good time to be living around then. Execution by burning, especially the particular form commonly called burning at the stake, in which the condemned were bound to a large stake surrounded by burning faggots of wood, had a long history as a method of punishment for crimes such as treason and heresy. It was also used as punishment for witchcraft during this period, although it was actually less common than hanging, pressing, or drowning. This method of execution fell into disfavor among the most governments in the 18th century. Thank goodness. And today is considered cruel and unusual punishment. Germany saw Europe's greatest execution rates of witches, higher than those in the rest of the continent combined. It is estimated that over the 160 years from 1500 to 1660, between 50,000 to 80,000 suspected witches were executed. About 80% of them are women, including about 26,000 in Germany and about 10,000 in France. England executed significantly less than 1,000 during that same period. despite the intense witch hunting under the witch finders general and Ireland, just 4, due to in part to better procedural safeguards in those countries for defendants. The witch hunt reached its peak in Europe during the late 16th and early 17th century before tailing off after the 1640s. However, witch hunting merely shifted from one side of the Atlantic to the other, particularly with the famous outbreak of witch hysteria in Salem in 1692. The very last execution for witchcraft in Europe took place in Poland in 1793. Although sporadic deaths still occur in other parts of the world, for example, there have been at least 2 beheadings in Saudi Arabia in 2011 for accused witchcraft and sorcery. So it's definitely very interesting. And like I said, it's fascinating to me that there were so many women that were involved. That was a time where there was a lot of wars taking place, dividing of lands, and things like that. So maybe the women were really kind of trying to uprise, because a lot of women were not respected, not loved, and not looked at as some kind of a leader. They were really ridiculed back then. So maybe all the women just got tired and gave up, and they were like, "Yep, we're going to go ahead and get into witchcraft and start putting curses on the men." And that definitely could be something that happened back in those days. It's hard to say, but it's definitely quite fascinating with that stuff. And with that being said, that they come across a lot of things. I mean, with so many deaths and curses that take place with your spirit. I mean, a lot of times people, and this goes into theories, but when people pass, if you have a spirit that is unfulfilled or a vengeful spirit, they can start to make pacts. They become one. Literally, when you leave your body, you become one with the ether that surrounds us. And there's beings that live outside or beyond the veil that are allowed to make pacts with spirits. Spirits that aren't willing to move on or reincarnate. That's where the whole reincarnation happens, is that spirits have the opportunity to reincarnate, start life over, and see if they learn from their mistakes, right? But sometimes you can make pacts with the familiar spirits that surround us, and they will give you enough energy or allow you to learn on how energy works, so then they can begin to get bodies to host in, right? To get bodies to host in, because a lot of people still perform these kind of rituals, and in these rituals they perform the uprise of these spirits, the uprise of these familiar spirits, to embody their body, whether they're aware of it or not. And that's why you don't play with witchcraft, because that's the real deal, right? People think it's fake, but these spirits are allowed to enter their bodies because they're not protecting themselves. A lot of people don't know how to protect themselves. A lot of people don't know that they have a spiritual body that is your main body. People are so focused on this fleshly body that they don't think there's no kind of outcome that can take place, and a lot of people can be possessed in some way, shape, or form. That's why a lot of times when people give their life to Christ, a lot of those spirits that are within them will actually leave, because you're actually surrendering. It's not just because of Christ himself, but I'll get to that here in a second, but it's because you are fully surrendering yourself to a creator. You are surrendering any kind of negativity or any kind of energy baggage. It's true surrender. That's the power of crying as well, is that it's just it's that state of release, and you feel good about it. And a lot of times, there's a lot of other interesting things that happen during those cleansing processes, where actually those demons will stay attached to you. So you end up seeing these people just screaming and crying on the ground and just outraged because those spirits are attached to them, and the host has given so much energy to those beings that it really begins to be hard. So therefore, you got to call in the experts to get those demons out of those people. So it's definitely fascinating. It's something that I really need to start practicing and looking into, because I really feel that could end up being the next step in the future for people, because it's getting quite bad. It really is. I send a lot of prayers, silent prayers, to people, to help them out. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of people are just in a confused state where they're looking for a creator, but they don't want to go to the church. They're performing rituals. Rituals are getting huge. I mean, that's where the New Age comes in, and things of that nature, which is what I'll be talking about too as well. I got people in the chat room and YouTube as well. How's it going? UCub, Joshua, Jay, Kroll Earrings, Allie. Thank you guys for joining me. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and we'll read some of this stuff. Let's see. Joshua says, "Hello, Messiah." um, yeah, Allie says, "Dude, if we lived back then, they'd burn us." That's real talk, and that's why I'm making this video, man. Is that it's true, man. And and that's the crazy thing too, is that we're seeing an uprise in witchcraft. Literally, there was on the news, what was it, last week, I think it was, on the major news, is that they were talking about, I think it was in New York, I could be wrong, New York or Los Angeles. They have witchcraft shops. I mean, literally, you can go in there and they had like beaver skulls and who knows what other stuff was on there. But they were talking about and how they had these like voodoo dolls for the president or whatever. And they were performing rituals, and they were saying, and this is the catch too, they were saying that they have the right to perform their religious beliefs, right? Because witchcraft is considered now a religious belief. And this is what they have been promoting. They've been slowly bringing out the Bethamot statue in these areas. And they've been also promoting in public schools the freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Well, some people will say, well, Adam, they won't let people talk about the Bible or anything. But that's not true entirely, because with that freedom of speech for other people doing, those kind of religious views, well, you can do Christianity too, because it is a religious view. So it falls into that category. So we can express ourselves. So if Christianity is expressed, then Satanism can be expressed. Witchcraft can be expressed. All of these things can be expressed. And they're actually, the agenda is to get witchcraft accepted, where, hey, if you can't hate it or blast it, because that's part of their religious beliefs. And they're trying to push it more and more and more. And if you watch, I don't watch this stuff, but I always end up coming across this, like Saturday Night Live, is that, and even in Europe, man, it's pretty bad, is that they'll have little skits of them performing these rituals, right? These blood rituals. There was like a reality show, and they were doing like these rituals as well. They had like this pool of, they said it was fake blood, but I bet you it was real blood. Or animal blood, and they would drink from it and things like that. And I was just like, holy cow. But they're trying to create it as an expression, just like with same-sex marriages and stuff. They force it to you, and then they give you the guilt trip of, well, we need to respect them for who they are. And I got a lot of friends who are gay and lesbian, so nothing against them. But there's an agenda to it. They can't freely be themselves, and they push it where they make them feel like they have to force their lifestyle on everybody, right? They have to force it. So with witchcraft, it's the same way. They're trying to force it to us. They're trying to create confusion, right? Babylon translates into confusion. We're living in the state of Babylon, or the state of Babel right now. And it's just a state of confusion. It's a state of chaos. I mean, it literally is. But with all of this distractions of, like Hollywood performing these rituals, you got the Illuminati and the Freemasons, which I'm learning more and more and more, are staged things that persuade you away for what they're really doing, right? They're really witches and they're really warlocks, and that's it. Illuminati is a stage name. Freemasons is more of a place, and what I learned with Freemasons is that I guess when you go into Freemasonry, um, they tell you that you are going into Freemasonry because your life is chaos, you are lost, and you're in a state of confusion. That's what they tell you. Um, so it brainwashes you right there. So when you're trying to reach a state of enlightenment, it's balancing out your state of chaos, and that's where it confuses you, because that begins to be your foundation. Your foundation is a state of confusion, and you're trying to reach a state of enlightenment. And with there being so many degrees in Freemasonry, you can be consumed by that, and it continues forward, right? So it's quite fascinating, it really is. But at the end of the day, it's really witches and warlocks. Illuminati is a staged name to keep the audience distracted. And that's the key word: distraction. Distraction. Like I said, I've been watching. Man, I spent like 3 hours watching crap I didn't want to watch. But the Spirit told me to just to listen, pay attention, and see what the masses are looking at. And that's the key thing, is that, the most important thing to realize is that you need to discover who you are. Everything that you are looking for is within you. That is what I'm all about. Everything is within you. Christ said, I am the way, truth, and light. No one goes to the Father except through me. I am is key. Christ said to go within, not outside self. And that's where I'll be talking about these scriptures here in a second. People focus so much outside self. People want to focus on conspiracies. People want to focus on the gloom and dooms. That's what I talked about a couple of videos ago, or last video, is that Christians really focus a lot on the Antichrist and the end times, and they hope that everything just goes to crap, so then their Savior will save them, right? That's their whole focus. That's their whole focus, and it's sad that people get so easily deceived. What am I all about? I'm all about creating the best version of you, finding the best version of you, making your life right, making decisions that make your life better, finding a foundation within your life. Like mine is Christ. Foundation with Christ, getting connected back to the Most High, getting back together with Elohim, God. Connecting back to your Creator is key. And that's what perceived Christians should be talking about. They shouldn't be focusing so much outside self. And if they do, they need to make a solution, and that's what I'm all about, is creating solutions in this world of Babylon, in this world of chaos and confusion. So with that being said, we just have to realize, that witches are the real deal and so are warlocks. So we're going to go ahead and read some scriptures here, and I'm going to give kind of feedback on these, because it really needs to be narrowed down, because at the end of the day, all of us perform witchcraft in some way, shape, or form. Whether you want to believe that or not. I'm going to give you some examples of witchcraft, or rituals. The power of words alone are witchcraft. The English language is is insane, man, because it's a reverse language, so it performs um, rituals as well. You know, and it brings up a thing that I didn't realize is words. Words. You put the S in front, you get sword, right? You get swords. And what did Christ say? Christ said he would come with a double-edged sword. So that means that Christ is going to be speaking from both words, from the dark side and the light side. You know, Christ is going to be speaking in both places, allowing those who are in darkness and allowing those who are in the light to hear the voice of the Creator. It's powerful stuff. I just got goosebumps saying that. But that's what it means. So swords means words or sorcery as well. But it's pretty uncanny, you know, and Christ spoke in parables. That's what he was all about. Christ spoke in parables. So then those who are in tune with the Creator, those who are seeking truth, those uh, who are looking for knowledge and wisdom, those who have a spiritual path, will understand the parables that are being processed. Those who live a monkey set mind, who are wanting all the answers right now, who are wanting everything I want, and stuff like that, they're never going to understand the truth. They're never going to understand how to get back to the Creator. They're never going to understand that personal relationship with the Christ energy within them. They won't, and that's why they perform these kind of rituals for a sense of redemption or a sense of salvation. You know, that's what it was all about. You know, that's what the whole Bible was about. Was all about idol worshiping and sacrifices, sacrificing to different gods and all of that stuff. You know, it's all intertwined, and those exact same stuff that happened in the Bible still happens today. And that brings up another interesting thing too, is that they created this Bell Arch, right? This Bell Arch. It showed up, I think, last year, and they were testing it to see, and they actually some secret cameras or something like that caught a lot of druids around in those areas, and they were just saying, "Oh, it was just a practice thing or whatever." But it ended up showing up again. I think it was last month. Yeah, last month it showed up again, and it was like real close to Washington D.C. or the White House, somewhere around there. That Bell thing showed up again. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is, though, even though it's on the surface, all this ritual stuff happens underground. So, like in New York, there's a lot of hidden tunnels and areas and underground facilities down there. Um, so I mean, you can easily do rituals down there as well. So it's pretty crazy. And what are arches? Arches are stargates or portals. Stargates or portals. Um, and it's very fascinating. It really is. So let's go ahead and let's see here. Let's see what we got going on Facebook here. Let's see. Pamela says, someone has suggested to me that God and the devil are one and the same. What is your take on that one? And that's interesting because I actually talked about that and how God is really Satan, or that the Bible is Satan's Bible. It's really, there's many, oops, hold on here. There's many different types of gods if you really read in there. And I always tell people, you know, that Elohim translates into multiple gods. So that's one example. Another example is learning on which God is Moses talking to, which God is Paul talking to, which God is Christ talking to. Pay attention to who these people are talking to in the Bible. The gods who are telling you to perform sacrifices of like animals or even children, right? I think it was Isaac. And he was tested to sacrifice his son. Well, a lot of Christian people say, well, that's a good thing, you know, that just proves that that they fully dedicate their lives and that they'll sacrifice anything in their life to please the Creator. Well, the true Creator, the divine Creator, and it says right in the commandments, thou shalt not kill, period. Thou shalt not kill, period. So when you read about God's wanting sacrifices, whether it be animal sacrifices or human sacrifices, those are the Antichrist. Those are the false gods that people are listening to. And that's where you use the power of discernment. That's why Christ came back and his teachings were so different, and why he was so hated in that time, because he was exposing, and that's what a lot of us are doing now, exposing the churches for what they were and what they are, exposing the rituals that were performed, whether it be human sacrifices or animal sacrifices. The God does not look for that, but there is a God that loves bloodshed. There is a God that blesses you, when you perform those blood rituals, right? You think it's all hunky-dory and good, but you're really sacrificing your soul to the gods of this world. It's crazy, man. It really is. And, that's where I say the power of the blood, right? The power of the blood. And people get it twisted. They think it has to be real blood. It has to be the innocent blood. It has to be the pure blood of a virgin, right? And I learned, that virgin translates into maiden. But anyways, maiden, virgin, the purity of the blood, an untarnished blood, and it's Christ talked about the parable, is that it's the blood within you. You're anointed. That's what Christ translates to, Christ Mashiach, right? It's the anointing of the Spirit within you, the anointing one, the Mashiach. It's magic. Whether you look at it or not, it's some kind of magic or enchantment as well. What's the other word? Not enchantment, but what is that word? Where you just keep saying things over and over again. Like Christ is love, Christ is love, Christ is love. I can't think of what it is. Incantation or something like that. I don't know. All right, let me read these real quick, and then I'll get to these scriptures here. Let's see. Scott says, I am a Mormon, not based on scripture, but out of all the supposed Christian religions, I believe they actively love the most. Christians like existence, even in the way they hold services. Maybe not like existence, or lack existence, maybe. And a fascinating thing about that, let's see, first created resistance and refusal and creates. And the interesting thing is when I was in Salt Lake, I was in the Mormon thing, and it was showing me the history of the Mormons and stuff, and their belief, is that these souls are up in heaven, and they get to choose their parents, and they get to choose their experience down on earth, right? It's a very interesting perception of things, and it really goes into like the New Age stuff and things like that. It's all intertwined. Creates and accepts. It's all intertwined together. Is that we need to realize that there is something more than this body. There's not just one life. So many people are like, well, you just die and then you move on. But you have to explain to me why there are so many testimonies, including myself, of perceived past lives, or maybe future or current lives, right? There's something there. I woke up, I had an awakening in 2010, or done research, and then I looked into my soul history by myself, and learned about all of these phenomenons and these past lives, and it made you more and more connected with the divine Creator. I was raised in a Christian home, and learned about Christ and things like that. But the catch is I didn't limit myself. There were so many questions I had in the church, but they couldn't answer it, or I felt that, that I would be kicked out. And eventually, I couldn't go into churches because of that. So I ended up, my soul, this was before 2010, but when I was adventuring out, I started to adventure into magic, and I started to adventure out, not actually doing it, but just learning about it, learning about blood rituals, why people were into vampirism. That was a bizarre thing right there. That was a huge thing on talk shows with vampirism. And it was testing the waters for people, right? Now they're just shoving it down our throats, but it was testing the waters. And I was looking at all these things, and I was like, man, what is this? And just looking into all this stuff. So when I woke up in 2010, and I began to look into the New Age concepts, and I was already talking with the spirits that visited me in 2010, right? And they were telling me to look at this stuff, told me to quit eating meat. And I was like, man, I don't want to quit eating my hamburgers, right? Because that's all I was. I would eat hamburgers or fries. That was my main meal. They're like, nope, you got to quit. So they show me the videos, show me what it does to you spiritually and physically. And I was like, okay, I see your point. So I had to quit. And, I was led by the Spirit, right? I was led by the Christ Spirit. And I had to learn the power of discernment too. That was a huge thing, the power of discernment. So let me go ahead and read this because I could end up talking forever here. So this is some very interesting stuff. So I'll go ahead and do an introduction. This is from BibleReasons.com/witchcraft. Let's see. Many deceived people say that you can still be a Christian and practice witchcraft. Actually, I'm not going to read that here. Because it'll confuse you. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and get to the scriptures, and we'll go from there. Revelations 21:27. Nothing impure will ever enter it, nor will anyone who does what is shameful or deceitful, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life. And that means, too, is that you're never going to... someone did a Mimi laugh. You're never going to experience heaven in your life if you don't go within yourself. Praying and meditation is key. If you don't go into yourself and connect back to Christ, connect back to your Creator, learn how to discern spirits and learn about spirits. One of the majority of things in your life that you'll encounter when you're in meditation is your demons and scars that are within you. As well as your blood DNA. Your DNA has a rich history of your family. So whether you have cursed family bloodline or not, it's in there, and you're going to have to deal with it, and you're going to have to learn and observe it. And it's up to you. Each person that is born out of the family tree can uplift the curse that is on that bloodline. And the bloodline is rich with history. I have a theory that there's 4 bloodlines, right? There's 4 main bloodlines, and we're attached. And in all instances, we could be attached to all 4 bloodlines. So we could have that state of curing those bloodlines and making things right for future generations. And it gets real deep. But nothing impure will ever enter it. So that means that, if you're discerning spirits, you're purifying yourself, you're staying connected, nothing deceitful or anything in that nature can enter this body. In the Lamb's book, Lamb is a representation of a purity, right? A purity, just like the lamb's wool is white as snow. It is that impurity. In the book of life. Right? The book of life is all about being pure, being honest, being open, following the commandments. I always go by the Mayat commandments. It's beautiful stuff. Look into the laws of Mayat and things like that. It's beautiful. And then religion borrowed, and that's where they got the 10 Commandments. So you got to do a history lesson too. A lot of people don't realize that the Bible is a lot of those stories are borrowed stories from the ancient ones. And then the big argument arises, well, which one was first? Was Egyptians first? Was the Bible first? It don't really matter. It's the awareness of that there is a Messiah. There's an awareness that you have to connect back to the Creator, right? And that's what Christ taught us, to go within. It's all within, not outside. Not outside worshiping the Son outside self, but the true Son that is within self is key. So that's what that one's all about. Revelations 21:8. But cowards, unbelievers, the corrupt, murderers, the immoral, those who practice witchcraft, idol worshipping, and all liars, their fate is in the fiery lake of burning sulfur. And this is the second death. And I've learned too is that I guess like the familiar spirits or elemental spirits are the fiery ones, and that's why if you use like holy water, it hurts them because they're so full of fire, right? They're so full of sulfur. And that's where I find it quite fascinating. And this kind of leads into that awareness that when you're performing these kind of practices is that your soul gets trapped. After you leave the body, your soul gets trapped in this earth environment. And maybe when you're performing these kind of rituals, the guardians of the elementals can take your spirit, right? Maybe if you surrender and everything, you can move through the light, reincarnate, and live through life again. It all ties in. Like I said, these are theories, but there's so many testimonies that really kind of show that. And I've talked about this too. Is that a lot of people will have experiences, and this is where, I really feel like, when people are gays or lesbians, like I said, I got friends, good friends. It's nothing against them, but I've had talks with the males, and I'm like, have you ever considered like, maybe in a past life you were a woman, and then your life was taken suddenly, so you have the memories of a woman? And the one guy responded, he's like, maybe you're right. I've had dreams of being a woman, and I've had dreams of having kids and things like that. So maybe it was a past life, right? You die suddenly, you're confused, right? It can happen. You could be confused. You're like, oh man, what's going on, right? Because you see that in TV shows. And then you adventure into the light, and then your guide says, okay, well, it's time to step into the light. Step into the light, boom. Then you reincarnate, and then you go through life again. All honestly, we should have a school, which I'm planning to hopefully start as well. There's other ones out there too, of past life, uh, what you call it, just past lives. Learning about your past lives, learning about your soul spirit, seeing what is brought up out on the surface, so you can deal with it now, so you're not having to deal with it later. Because, like I said, your DNA is attached to so many consciousness streams. It's crazy. I've always felt like I knew my mom and my dad when they were in their young years. I felt like I knew them. I felt like I experienced what they experienced. A lot of the past things that I experienced, in a negative sense, I felt was from the bloodline. Like there was just a reoccurring things that were happening. So there was familiar spirits that were attached within that bloodline. So it was attached to me. So I had to learn how to cleanse that out, clear it out, and things like that. So it gets really deep on so many levels. Like I said, life is more spiritual than physical in so many ways, and it explains a lot about why people have these nervous breakdowns, these hearing all the voices, right? Hearing all the voices of negative voices or voices that control them and things like that. It's crazy, man. But there always is some kind of solution. That's what I'm all about, is finding solutions to these situations. America is huge with, oh, well, we'll just send them to the loony bin, give them lots of pills and drugs, and then call it good. Well, that's not how we should be handling it. If there's familiar spirits, right? If there's spirits within these people, then we need to perform an exorcism and get those spirits out. And then if no spirits come to be, then it could be a mindset, right? It could be a mindset. So it really narrows things down. You know, it has to be a step-by-step process. America refuses to do a very smart way of doing things. They just shove everything under the plate. You know, they shove everything down your throats in some way, shape, or form, and they just keep shoving everything away. Now it's turning into a rant video. But let's continue on here. Galatians 5:19 through 21. Now the actions of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity, um, promiscuity, adultery, witchcraft, hatred, rivalry, jealousy, outbursts of anger, conflicts, factions, envy, murder, drunkenness, wild partying, and things like that. I am telling you now, as I have told you in the past, that people who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. You know, and that's where the ego comes in, and that's where sin. I talked about sin in the last video. Is that if you look into the history of the word sin, it was actually referring to the moon, or referring to darkness. So it's going into the darkest state, that darkness state, and living by that darkness, the state of confusion, and by the way of ego. You know, this whole body becomes an idol, and you're performing all of the ego that is of the flesh and not of the spirit. Let's see. Micah 5:11 and 12. I will tear down your walls and demolish your defenses. I will put an end to all witchcraft, and there will be no more fortune tellers. No more fortune tellers. And that brings up a good point, and I was probably talking about tarot cards here real quick, is fortune tellers. So we have so many people, and this is what I was talking about, how Christians are so fascinated with the end times, and even some New Age people, so fascinated with end times. They're like, oh man, I had a dream that the whole world was covered in blood, and that there was just bodies everywhere, and I was told, that he is coming soon. So I woke up and I gave my life to Christ, and I just started preaching away. And then the dream ended. And it's things like that, it's foretelling a gloom and doom, or a foretelling of something else. We really have to pay attention when someone is telling us a fortune or making a decision for us. Is again, you're allowing spirits, or the elemental spirits or familiar spirits to become awakened in your state, and you're looking outside self. Again, it's all about outside self. So you're looking towards other humans to give you answers, and that's why so many people are so fascinated with the end times of, oh, so many people are having the same dream. But they don't realize, that dreams are symbolic of something. If you've seen a Armageddon apocalypse, an Armageddon scenario of all of these bodies, dead and stuff, it can be symbolic that you need to go out and change. It changed your life, right? And then the dream ended. So therefore you are going on the spiritual path that Christ showed you. You need to go. Otherwise you were leading a life of death. You were part of the zombies, right? The whole thing of rising the dead concept in the Bible was that it wasn't literally raising the dead. It could have been, maybe Christ did really raise the dead, right? But it's symbolic. Raising the dead means that there's so many people who are asleep and that live by the world, they don't realize that there's a spiritual world. So if you see a lot of dead bodies in a chaotic world, it could just mean that you're among those dead bodies and you rose up among the dead bodies. So it's symbolic, and a lot of people don't see that, and because there's so many testimonies, people get it confused and think, oh well, Christ came to me in a dream. So it's very interesting. And it's never Christ either. If you listen to all these testimonies, they always say, I am coming soon, right? I am coming. He never says Christ is coming. He says I am. And what is I am? I am that I am. Christ said, I am. I am is very important to realize, is that it is the I am within you, right? I am coming soon. The light within you is coming soon, is coming outwards into your life. But you have to awaken it up within you. The Messiah is within you, and it needs to be awakened out. So yeah. Let's see, Micaiah 3:7. Seers will be put to shame. Those who practice witchcraft will be disgraced. All of them will cover their faces because God won't answer them. And these scriptures have been fulfilled, right? Because we talked about the witchcraft trials, the witching trials, right? There's a big uprise in witchcraft, and they got rid of them, right? So, therefore, those who say, well, there's a lot of Bible prophecies that have been fulfilled. Well, this stuff has already been fulfilled once, and it's going to be fulfilled again, because what do we have right now? A huge epidemic in the United States. Hollywood, Los Angeles, we have a huge epidemic of witchcraft and sorcerers and warlocks, right? They're everywhere, and they're in the public eye now. And it's insane, and all that the celebrity people do is just laugh at it, make a mockery out of it. It's crazy, man. Let's see, and and it says during that is that God won't answer them. And like I've told people, that Christ and God never shut their door. It's that the people choose to shut the door. And until they learn the power of surrender and the power of forgiveness, that door to the Creator in Christ will always be shut until they decide to open it up. 1 Samuel 15:23. Rebellion is as sinful as witchcraft. And stubborn, and let me read that again. Rebellion is as sinful as witchcraft, right? As witchcraft. And it's living by the flesh. Witchcraft is a state of living by the flesh. And stubbornness as bad as worshiping idols. Stubbornness is as bad as worshiping idols. So because you have rejected the commands of the Most High, He has rejected you as king. He has rejected you as a person that is worthy of going into heaven, because you're worshiping outside self. Leviticus 19:23. Do not eat meat that has not been drained of its blood. Do not practice fortune telling or witchcraft. And that's the key thing. Do not eat meat that has not been drained of its blood, right? And again, and that's what I talked about too, with the flesh itself, with you cooking flesh and things like that. And I'll say this again, there's some people who have to have meat. So if you have to have any kind of meat, it's usually beef that they have to have in their diet. Get rid of pork. If you just have to eat beef, then get rid of pork, chicken, and fish, and then learn on what that beef has in it, what that red meat has in it, and see if you can find alternatives to that, or see what that beef is sustaining you in doing so. So do your research when you're eating. But at the end of the day, when you're cooking meat, it's performing that ritual. And here's the kicker. So smoke actually, and since you're cooking flesh, smoke actually rises up spirits, rises up the spirits. That's why it was so huge with sacrificing and the burning of sacrifice, was that it conjures up spirits, and people aren't aware of that. So when people are at barbecuing and stuff, and you got all the smoke everywhere, it's conjuring up spirits. And then you add witchcraft to it, man, then you really got a smorgasbord of spirits. But it's conjuring up spirits, and those who are weak in the spirit, those who are weak in their spirit body, can be possessed by the spirits or the familiar spirits that surround us daily. These spirits surround us daily, aware or unaware. Same with candles. Candles are huge too, right? Like birthdays. I don't celebrate birthdays. I got kids, and we'll do their birthdays and whatnot without candles. I try to make sure candles aren't performed. But it's the same thing, is that candles, fire, right? And that's what I said before. The elementals and spirits love fire. So they are are attracted to fire. So when you're saying your wishes on birthday, right? When you're saying your wishes on birthday, you're conjuring up spirits again. And then when you blow out the fire, then that invokes the spirit to come out, because that's that smoke that comes out, and it invokes the spirits to come out. Um, and I'm also learning too about sage. So I'm learning about sage too, and I have to do more research on it, because I mean, sage supposedly is designed for protection, but if smoke conjures up spirits, wouldn't that mean that the spirits are being awakened too by that? It's hard to say. It's hard to say, but it's something I'm looking into. But as a whole, these spirits love fire. Love fire. That's why it's talked about a lot in the Bible, is that they love fire and they love sulfur. And that's why you'll smell sulfur. I had a dream, a reoccurring, I've talked about this in plenty of my videos. I had a reoccurring dream in my uh, uh, young child, as a young child, and of this beast that lived in my parents' bedroom. And I would smell sulfur. I would smell sulfur from it, and I would hear it growl, and then would come after me. I'd try to run up the stairs, couldn't make it up there, and it would devour me. But I smelt that sulfur. I smelt that fire. Um, and it was very interesting. And sulfur goes, or not sulfur, but fire goes both ways, because later on, after that reoccurring dream, because I would pray and things like that, I had an angel that was up the staircase um, come through, and it was an angel that was dressed in red, and her hair was flaming, or it was red, and she just lit the whole stairway on fire. I always get goosebumps when I talk about this. She lit the whole stairway on fire, and that fire wrapped around and went to my parents' bedroom. And after that cleansing process, that beast was never there again, and I was able to go upstairs. And it was a reoccurring process in those dreams. But it's both ways. You got the phoenix rising. You got the pure state of fire, and you got the negativity of fire, and it goes both ways. And that's why, like myself, I'll say the fire of the spirit grows within me, because it's the intent. It's the intent that you put out. When there's spirits, both good and bad, that we work with daily. We work with the spirits daily. Aware or unaware. They're just spirits. They're familiar spirits. There's elemental spirits. There's spirits that have their own consciousness. They're smart. They're intelligent. A lot of them are very old and very ancient. And I got friends who are natives, and they tell me about the cursed land. I've talked about the cursed land before, and how they told me just to leave them alone. I'm so curious, and I want to go venture out, but I'm afraid that they may follow me home and things of that nature. Um, but the natives are taught to just leave them alone. They're already haunted by the spirits there, but they're taught just to leave them alone. Don't go outside in the dark. That's what they're told. Don't go outside in the dark, because then those spirits will take them away. So it's very fascinating. Is that this world is ran by these elemental spirits, and it's fascinating to me about that. It's something that we can't ignore. It's not something of the imagination. The only way you can distinguish between imagination would be if nobody else has experienced it. So that would be an internal spirit within you. When you go through meditation, you're going to end up seeing your inner demons. So people think that they are possessed, but they're not. It's just their inner demons that they have to deal with. They have to forgive that spirit within them, and they have to surrender it to the Most High, or surrender it to Christ. And it's an internal spirit that is not an outside spirit. Now, if it's an outside spirit, then you'll see phenomenons of moving objects and shadows and voices and things like that. So that would be a true familiar spirit that is outside self. But a lot of times people think that the internal spirits are real spirits, and they're not. It's just a part of you that you have to deal with. So it's complex. And again, people just don't talk about this stuff. They don't look at the internal and the external sources of things. And I'm probably going to go ahead and jump into some of these other scriptures here, but let's see here. Deuteronomies 18:10 through 13. For example, never sacrifice your son or daughter as a burnt offering, and do not let your people practice fortune telling or use sorcery or interpret omens or engage in witchcraft or cast spells or functions as mediums or psychics or call forth the spirits of the dead. Anyone who does those things is detestable to the Most High. It is because the other nations have done this detestable things that the Most High, your Almighty, will drive them out ahead of you. But you must be blameless before the Lord your Most High. You must be blameless. That means that you need to be clean. You need to be cleansed. They got a lot of blood. The witches, the real witches, have a lot of blood on their hands. They're going to have to answer to it. They're going to have to call to it. And those who have sold their souls, like in Hollywood, who have sold their souls, they can't get out. They're stuck. They're stuck. And that's what I was talking about. Is I ended up coming across this new I hate promoting people, but this new sensation that's going to be huge. It looks like it might be the next Katy Perry. Her name is Poppy, and it's interesting. It has a interesting story to it. But there was just so many weird things about it that was just really programming. I mean, she was on a talk show and they were talking about Illuminati and stuff, and that's what I was saying, is that there's these staged things that consume the people. They go into the conspiracy theory. Hey, how's it going, Sylvia? Hope I say your name right. That there's these code words, and they promote the Illuminati symbols, and it's so frustrating when they say that Illuminati symbols. What is the triangle? What is the pyramid structure? What is the representation of the pyramid structure? For me personally, I've discovered that you flip that pyramid upside down, and there's rich history with that. You flip that pyramid upside down, you got the mother on one side of the triangle, you got the father on the other side, and with the mother and father, what do they produce? They produce the child. So that is the tip of the pyramid. And you can do it, you can flip it upside down or right side up, whatever. That's why we have the Star of David, right? It's two pyramids attached to each other, as above, so below, right? It's bringing heaven to earth. So when we're a male and a female and bring life into this world, we're bringing a spirit down to earth. We're bringing the spirit down to earth, which therefore the Mormon belief, right? So I mean, all the religions have some form of truth. New Age has some form of truth. All these things have some form of truth, and we have to blend all of these things together and put it in a blender, mix it up, and see what we get, right? See what we get. And just, and we realize too, that we're performing some kind of witchcraft in our lives, is that, well, I would like to have a new car, or, I pray that I can have a new car, or I want to manifest a new car, right? And then lo and behold, a couple days later, there's a good deal on a car, and then boom, there you go. So therefore, you created a witchcraft because you set an enchantment of I need a new car, I require a new car, or I would like to meet somebody in my life, right? And you say those enchantments over and over again. Those spirits listen, and then boom, there you go. So therefore that is witchcraft. So it's realizing the boundaries of the good and the bad out of witchcraft. How are you utilizing those practices? That's manifestation, right? That's manifestation. That's why I always say at the beginning of every video, you are creation, right? This is your creation, because you're creating your experience. Whether you're aware or unaware, the things that you experience happen to you for a reason. You have to learn about it. You have to grow. You have to adapt. You have to learn the trials and the tribulations and things like that. You listening to me, this is a creation for you, to better your life in some way, shape, or form. Anything I'm talking about in these videos is for somebody. It could be for one person. It could be for thousands of people in the future. It's hard to say. But at the end of the day, that's why I make these videos, because it creates solutions and it creates answers that a lot of people are seeking. A lot of people are seeking truth, and a lot of people are looking for honest people. And that is a rare thing to find. They're becoming more and more honest people, but they're very few. So I try to give you guys representation of these things that are real, right? Because we do know witchcraft is real. We know that the witches are really out there. These rituals are out there, and we really have to learn the power of discernment and the spirits and work with the spirits and things like that, and have an honest perception on things, and not just sugarcoat it in a one-dimensional thing of, oh, if you're a Christian, then everything is demonized, right? If you're a Christian, you don't do anything. All spirits are evil. But at the end of the day, I need to get to the scriptures here. At the end of the day, it says to test the spirits. When spirits come to you, what are they presenting to you? And that's what the picture I chose on here was. I am led by God. And it's real powerful. I think it's Galatians 2:20 or something like that. But we have to learn on how to discern the spirits within our daily lives. That voice, there can be tons of voices in your head. There can be that one single voice. That one voice is helping guide you, right? I'm guided by Christ. And as long as it is a guiding spirit that is wanting to help heal yourself, learn to love yourself, learn the power of forgiveness, the power of surrender, things of that nature, that's a good spirit. And then after you learn to heal yourself, you can look yourself in the mirror, and you can look in people in the eye. You're good. You're ready to go. The next chapter is to help people as well, is to help people and learn the power of discernment, helping them out on their path and seeing where they need to be in their life. It's pretty crazy. Let's see, Isaiah 47:12 through 14. Now use your magical charms. Use the spells you have worked at all these years. Maybe they will do you some good. Maybe they can make someone afraid of you. All the advice you receive has made you tired. Where are all your astrologers, those stargazers who made predictions each month? Let them stand up and save you from what the future holds. But they are like straw burning in a fire. They cannot save themselves from the flame. You will get no help from them at all. Their heart has no place to sit for warmth. Their heart has no place to sit for warmth. And this gets into the tarot cards and the astrology charts. This astonishes me on how so many people fall into these astrology charts of, well, my house is this, right? Say you're Virgo or Sagittarius or Aquarius or whatever it is, there's a rich story behind it. And when people pay money to learn about their house, they're astonished. They're like, wow, this person is so accurate on everything. It's uncanny. Everything that he or she said is true. This explains so much about my personality and my characteristics and things of that nature, right? So they're astonished by what they said. They're astonished by what they said, so they're mesmerized by it. And therefore, they focus on the outside voice, on people, instead of focusing within. And I've studied these. from a pinpoint of when people are born, right? So I look at people who were born around my time, and I am quite astonished that there is a similarity with the spirits that are attached to each month, right? I've met a lot of people who are born around the same time I am, and there's a lot of similarities to their personality, right? There's a similarity there. However, with it being said, I think that's the drawing point of how they reel you in, right? How they reel you in and to keep you outside self, right? There could be a reason, and this is what I talked about before, is that when we're born on this world, it's not just a single spirit. We could be, I could be linked to like 1,000 spirits, and we're all simultaneously experiencing different things at the same time. So, when we're experiencing all of that, and then we're also batteries, right? We're also batteries because we got the layers of heaven we look at. So there could be a being that is at a higher level of heaven, and we're linked with that being. And then that being is linked with 500 people and so on and so forth. We're linked energy current, right? We're all energy, we're all synergy. We all feed off of each other, right? Some beings are more powerful than others. Some people know how to utilize the ethers, right? The ethers is the synergy currents, and they know how to utilize that, which is why you have like stadiums that are surrounded in metal circles to entrap that energy. And as they're cheering and stuff for the football teams or wrestling events or whatever kind of event it is, it conjures up energy and it spirals up because it's a metal structure, and it just conjures up spirits, and then poof, the energy gets released. So when people are performing witchcraft and stuff, they can send those familiar spirits out and gather that ether energy and bring it to them, so their intent in their witchcraft practices can be stronger, and so on and so forth. It gets deep, man. It's not a matter you need to look away from. We need to pay attention to this stuff. We need to realize that this stuff is real, and that's why it's so important to pay attention to yourself. That's why I do this. People, my most watched video is the one about English language puts a spell on you, and I get so many. I get good comments and I get negative comments, and they're like, "Why are you always doing the 666, man? You must be part of the Illuminati." It's energy currents. So when you see me do that, it's energy currents. It keeps that energy in you. It's not a hand signal, it's energy currents. So like when you see celebrities or the perceived Illuminati people doing this, right? It's like it's the okay. No, it's sending energy currents. They're performing witchcraft, so they know how energy works. They know how hand gestures work. It's energy, right? And then they go the all-seeing guy, right? That's the third eye. That is the lamp of the eye. That's what Christ talks about. What is it? The eye of the lamp is the body, or something like that. I was going to look that scripture up, but it is the wholeness of you. These evil people, these people have stolen secret sacred rituals that can be used for good, and they've created it to be used as evil. They created to be used as evil. And that's what Christ taught the disciples, was these occult practices of meditation, of perceived astral traveling, of talking with the spirits, right? Because angels, there's the word angel is not in there. The original translation is messengers. And you also got the seraphim, you got the cherubim, which are what? Which are spirits. And you also have to realize with spirits is they're bodiless. They're just spirits. So these spirits, okay, and this is so important to realize, is that these spirits can enter into your being or read your mind and use projections from your mind to project out an image for you. So say you think a messenger looks like an angel with wings. Well, that familiar spirit can present itself as a being with wings, right? As a being with wings. So it looks like a glorious, beautiful being of light, right? But it just it sended that current memory that you had, and it downloaded that for you to realize. So say New Age people, right? You got a soulless being, and they're like, oh, okay, well, they're interested in the blue beings, so let me present myself as a Palladian in front of them. So they will create an image of a Palladian, and then boom, there you go. You think that that being is a Palladian, but really is just a familiar spirit. And these spirits can be good, they can be bad, they can deceive you, so on and so forth. People don't realize this, and this is why I bring something different, because I spent so much meditating and learning about this stuff and discerning the spirits, learning what is real, what is fake, what's an illusion, and things of that nature to help you guys see this, because I knew this stuff was going to get more and more and more out there, and the state of confusion is just getting more and more and more. So when you hear people talking about, oh, I saw an angel, or oh, I saw Christ, right? People will have these visions of Christ as a white person, right? Someone that looks like me, right? A beard and long hair. and and they'll say, oh, I saw Christ, he looked just like the pictures. Well, that's because that spirit knew that you worshipped that image, so it downloaded it, and it sent that image in front of you, so you can communicate with that spirit, um, so that spirit can either lie to you, or tell you something good. That's how spirits work, because they're bodiless beings. They're bodiless energy beings that have no body, so they have to manifest some kind of figure, some kind of illusion to show you. It's something to think about. People don't talk about this stuff. They view things as one-dimensional. Oh, I got in contact with this being. Well, okay, well, what kind of being is it? Is it a familiar spirit? Is it an elemental spirit? How old is this spirit? Well, this spirit is from the heavens, from the ninth dimension, or the 15th dimension. Okay, well, what kind of spirit is it? This spirit can tell you it's from the 100th dimension. It doesn't matter. What is the intent of the spirit? Well, the spirit, it looks like an Octurian, or it looks like an alien, gray alien. I don't care what it looks like. What is the spirit telling you? How is it benefiting your life? What is it doing? That's the kind of questions you have to ask these spirits. These spirits are smart. They're not stupid. But they'll make you look stupid, because they'll be like, oh, I got this human, man. This human thinks I'm some being from the 15th dimension, man. I can tell this person to do anything I want because they think I'm a higher dimension. And it's true too, man. It's crazy. See, how's it going, Corey? Okay, you got Oprah Winfrey, Janet Jackson, Andrew, and the wife. What? I'm not sure what you're trying to say with that, but I guess basically what you're saying is I don't know, man. I don't know what you're trying to say, man. But with Oprah and Janet and all that stuff, it's the same concept. Is that they perform those kind of rituals as well, right? It's all a big thing. I mean, you guys can look this stuff up if you want, but at the end of the day, that's what these spirits are. They mess with you. They play around with you. They're ancient beings. They run this world. And the interesting thing I never thought about is the ancient ones, right? So they created humans, and we ended up, theories. But it's written on the walls that humans were created for these giant beings to help them get what they need, whether it be gold or taking care of the land, whatever it was. Well, there's a theory going around that the ancient ones created the animals like the lions and the bears and the wolves and things like that to protect the land and attack the humans. So basically, this is now the animal kingdom. not only the elemental kingdom, right, for spirits and stuff, but it's an animal kingdom. And these animals, like the gorillas and things like that, are here to protect the land. So that is why they can attack humans and why they hate humans, because they know of those spirits. And it was very interesting, and it reminded me of the hellhounds, or the three-headed dogs, that's always presented. Oh man, I think it's Cerebus or something like that, the three-headed dog. It kind of reminded me of that, is how the ancient ones created these beasts to keep humans away from their land. So it's quite interesting. But yeah, so at the end of the day, we have to use the power of discernment with spirits, and they can mess with you, man. These spirits will mess with you pretty good. I think we'll go ahead and read some of the stuff, because I bet you this video is probably already, yep, an hour and a half. Let's see here. Let's see, Crow learning says, or spelling. Yeah, I mean, just look at the spelling, right? We got spelling. We learned about spelling bees and the English language and things like that. It's all spells. That's why it says spelling in there. It's a spell. You're enchanting spells. Abracadabra, right? And there's a meaning behind that as well. Let's see here. Tarot cards, yes. I need to talk about tarot cards before I forget. Alright, so tarot cards. This is something that I discovered today, and I never really thought about it. I think I've hinted at it, but never thought about it. But tarot cards have a story, right? And this reminded me of the flashcards that you learn when you're little, right? So when you're trying to teach your kid about the alphabet, right? You show them A, B, C, D, blah, 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 blah. And then you got the flashcards of like 1 + 1 is 2, and 2 + 2 is 4 and stuff. You're showing them flashcards. So when you're showing somebody flashcards, it's a form of, it could be hypnotizing, or just it's shooting a projection, right? It's shooting memories into your brain, because it means something, right? So letter A, it means something, so it goes into your database. 1 + 1 = 2. You see that, it goes into your database. So when you see that, it's a mirror reflection. So every time you are doing 1 + 1, you already remember, you've learned that, and it's already projected in your brain. So you'd be like, okay, well, it's number 2, so it's fourth, and that's why we have to constantly for tests, we got to practice stuff. We got to keep writing, like say words, right? My kids always have to write like words like 3 or 4 times. It's sending projections. You're not writing it just to write it. You're sending projections into your brain, so you remember it. So this got me thinking. I was like, all right, so tarot cards have such a weird foundation to them, right? And a lot of times you need to be careful when you buy tarot cards, for one. Always make sure you buy new tarot cards that have never been touched. You buy used tarot cards, they can be attached to witchcraft, and spirits can be attached to those tarot cards. So that's hint number 1. With tarot cards, always buy new ones, never buy used ones. Okay, now 2, with tarot cards, it's the intent of the person who is using the cards. So when you get tarot cards, you're told what these cards mean. So normal tarot card readers will read what the card means, and then they'll present that to their clients, or they'll present that to as a free reading, or whatever it is. Right? So that card is a flashcard, and when you see that card, right, because there's many tarot cards and a lot of people use the same decks, you know what that card means. And a familiar spirit will attach itself to you because you're aware of it. So therefore you accept what that card is saying in your life. And see, Alfred says you're using dark words, my friend. It's making you aware of everything. Making you aware of everything, and that's what I'm talking about tarot cards here. So with tarot cards, it's used as flashcards. So so when you utilize that, people have this subconscious uh, thing of, okay, well, this is what's going on. So if there's something negative from that card, well, then they summon that spirit into their life. They accept that spirit. So then that negative thing will happen to them. They're like, oh man, that card was right. Holy cow, I need to go back to that person again and have another reading. Hopefully they'll give me a better positive reading. Then you get a good positive card, and then you see good things happen in your life. Oh my gosh, that tarot card, oh, there's something to those tarot cards, and you go back to that person again and again and again and again and again, because they get you. It's flashcards. It's sending those kind of frequencies, and there's many different kind of tarot cards. There's a Christian-based tarot card as well, and people are like, oh, you can't do tarot cards; they're evil. It's the intent that comes by it. So if you got tarot cards and you have an image on there, say it's an image of an angel or some other kind of angelic being with a scripture attached to it, that is sending that intent out. So when you see that card, you see that card with that intent of the scripture, and that scripture will be a guiding point to your life, and it will be a guiding tool for you, so you can utilize the tools in a positive way and a negative way. You got to throw the word tarot out the window and just realize that they're flashcards, and they're sending enchantments through those flashcards. The person is the one that is enchanting the spells to you, and you have to either accept it or not accept it. Accept the spirits or not accept the spirits. That is key with these cards. Get rid of the word tarot, you just have flashcards, and the intent behind those cards is the person who is using the cards and who will con you if they know how to use it right. So you got to really look at it that way. We have to look at the positive side of things and the negative side of things. Let's see, Alfred says it's all pure luck if you believe to be lucky all the time. Yep, and that's the key thing too, is if you are like, oh man, I'm lucky today, you're sending that out there. Oh man, I'm blessed today. Well, you're sending that out there. So and that's the key thing with words too. People always say, well, blessed, blessed, blessed. That is a spell word of be blessing yourself. You're lessening yourself. Every time my kids are like, bless you, Dad, because they like to mock me. That's kids for you. And I'm like, no, say be more, or be awesome, or, rise up in your life, something like that, change your words. The power, just like what Alfred's saying, is accepting. Are you going to accept what has been told to you, right? A fortune teller comes to you and say, there's going to be gloom and doom in your life. Are you going to accept it? Or are you going to go, nope, I don't accept it, man. I rebuke what you just said to me. I send the spirits back to you, right? I send the spirits back to you. It's a spirit game. It's an energy game. Send it back to them. That's why I do silent prayers. I send silent prayers for those who need it. If I feel there's someone depressed, I'll send it back to them. They're trying to give me a depression or an anxiety spirit, I'll send it back with a prayer. I'll say, hey, give them some healing, give them some protection, allow them to see something different. Yep. And Alfred says it's God's flow. Yeah, it's God's flow. It's the Creator's flow. It's that Christ energy within us. There's a divine flow, but you can choose which one. Are you going to choose a physical flow of life? Or are you going to choose the divine flow of life? You can't serve two gods. It's either physical life or the spiritual life. And that's what it comes down to in everybody's daily lives. Let's see. And Crawl Learning says, do I read tarot cards? I do not. But I haven't kind of tempted to get those Christian tarot cards though, because I think they're quite interesting, but I haven't decided yet. I like to keep things pure, um, and just by the Spirit. Whatever the Spirit has to say, I like to keep it as pure and as raw as possible. So let's go ahead and we'll switch gears here. I want to talk about. Let's go ahead. We'll talk about. Oh man, there's so many. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Beelzebub. So this is one of the most interesting things, is that Christ was accused of working with the Beelzebub and the devils. This is right in the Bible, and I'll read these scriptures here in just a second. But he was accused of working with Beelzebub. And who Beelzebub is, I have no idea. That's what I've been trying to learn, because we have the elementals, we got spirits, we have chain of command within the spirit realm, right? So it's hard to say what these beings are, but that's what it translates to. Also known as Lord of the Flies, and that's why every time you say Lord, and it's hard because like when you say in prayers, you're so used to or conditioned to say prayers a certain way. So I really try to speak to the audience, and that's what I'm all about, is that I'm trying to help modernize the Bible for everybody to learn about Christ better, to listen about Christ in a different way other than a religious churchy feel to things. At the end of the day, what was Christ all about? To get away from human doctrine, to not listen to humans, but to go back within and listen to the Christ within us, and to open up the kingdom of heaven that will allow access to the Creator within us, right? The divine Creator, and attach ourselves back to the Creator as a whole. And that's what I'm all about. We have to learn how to modernize this stuff so it's not so churchy. Let's see, what do we got here? All right, so Mark 3:22. The scribes who came down from Jerusalem were saying, "He is possessed by Beelzebub, and he casts out the demons by the ruler of the demons." And that's what everybody thought Christ was doing. He thought that he was utilizing the Lord of the demons to cast out demons. So basically spirits with spirits, right? And this was back in the day when it was what would it be? Witches. I don't know if witches and warlocks are around that time or not, because it's talked about, but it's not really like explained. But as a whole, people knew who Beelzebub was and how demons worked back then, so they were accusing Jesus of that. Luke 11:15. But some of them said he cast out demons by Beelzebub, the ruler of demons. Luke 11:18-19. If Satan, the adversary, also is divided against himself, how will his kingdom stand? For you say that I cast out demons by Beelzebub, and if I by Beelzebub cast out demons, by whom do your sons cast them out? So they will be your judges. And basically Christ is saying there is that, well, if I'm casting out demons, who are your sons and daughters and priests and pastors? Who are they using to cast out demons, right? Who are they using to cast out demons? Christ was very firm is that he walked with the Father. He walked with the Father. He listened to the Father. He didn't listen to humans. He didn't listen to human doctrines. He followed the Father. He followed the Spirit, right? So he's like, well, you judged me, so I'm going to judge you. So where are you? How are you conjuring up the spirits out of people? Who are the sons and daughters and priests? Who are they worshiping to? Who are they using to help aid you in getting these demons out? And that's what we have to think about. What kind of demons are, not demons, excuse me, what kind of spirits are we using? What kind of spirits are we using? 2 Kings 1:2. And Isaiah fell through the lattice in his upper chamber, which was in Samaria, and became ill. So he sent the messengers and said to them, "Go inquire of Beelzebub the god Ikron, whether I will recover from the sickness." Wow, that's kind of interesting. I'm gonna have to read that. And that's looking outside self, right? And that actually is like Beelzebub. There's a Beelzebub and a Bel. So Beel, and then there's Baal. So Beelzebub. So there's two different kinds. So and that's basically where they would talk about the gods, because there's a lot of sacrificing rituals and stuff like that. The bull god and things like that. So they conjure up all these. So they do these sacrifices trying to get the sickness away, right? Because they didn't know how to tap into themselves. They didn't know how to tap into the Christ within them. They didn't know how to tap into the Creator within them. So they had to do physical sacrifices to please the gods back in those days. Let's see. It is enough for the disciple that he became like his teacher, and a slave like his master. If they have called the head of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they? How much more will they inquiry the members, or malign the members of his household, or curse the members of his household? Basically, conjuring up more and more and more spirits. As you're summoning these spirits in your life, right? That's why it's so important to have some kind of foundation, right? Because so many people will get on their hands and knees. Let's see, what do we got here? Alfred says the fallen angels are the healers or the messengers. Yeah, and they can be. I mean, I look at it this way too, right? Because my name is what? Adam Starseed Bey. And the reason why I use Starseed is it isn't because of the new age thing that's attached to it. It's because that we all come from the stars. I view the stars as the children of the Most High, right? As the children, or as some kind of soul of the Most High, right? You look into the Testament of Solomon, and he talked very vocally about that the stars are really beings that manipulate humanity, both in a positive way and a negative way. So he was learning about these stars, or these beings that were manipulating humanity. And I view it as us as well, that we are stars up in the sky, and we choose to come down to earth for some kind of purpose, right? We're not just born here to work and be in a slave world. We have a purpose. We have a purpose. So many people wake up and they feel that purpose, right? I looked at myself in the mirror when I was, man, how old was I? Like 5, 6? I don't know. I've told this story many times. 5 or 6 years old. And I told myself, or I felt that I had to tell myself in the mirror that I was going to help change the world. Some way, shape, or form, I was going to help change the world. And I was huge in reading the Bible. I was so very fascinated about the end times. I was talking with my cousin, and like I said, I was like 6 or 7 years old. I was talking with my cousin, and I freaked her out. She was like, Adam says that Christ is coming soon, and things like that, right? Because I had really, really hard dreams, like I said, with shadow beings and stuff. And but I was so very fascinated with that. That's why I told myself, I was like, I'm going to help change the world. And now look what I'm doing. I'm doing the best I can after I had to go through my trials and tribulations in my life. And I've documented my trials and tribulations. And then I had to go through a process between 2010 to now to help people as well. Right, to go through this and learn all walks of life. And that's what I talked about. All walks of life. We're taught we live in a world of divide. We live in a world of divide, where we're divided by culture, by religion, by views and opinions and traditions and all of that crap, man. We are one human race. We're one human race. And because of these deceitful eyes, we view people by color, we view people by religion and belief, and divide everybody. If you're not part of a country, they disown you. You're not a part of their country. We have to use paperwork and documentation to get from one place to another. When this place is a planet, it's Earth. We're here on one planet. Why is this one planet divided everywhere. It's crazy, man. It really is. Let's see. Yeah, and then yeah, and that's basically what starseeds is for me, is that we came from the stars, and then we're seeded into this planet, right, to help people out. You know, just like I'm here. I'm here to help you guys wise up, rise up, um, and do research and go back within yourself. That's what I'm all about, is to go back within, discover the Christ energy within you, and connect back to the Creator. You know, nobody really tells you about that stuff or is honest about it. You know, they try to feed you some kind of mumbo jumbo stuff, whether it be through tarot card readings or astrologies, or this is the energy frequencies of how we're feeling today. You know, things that are outside self. I know it's a good talk, you know, and I mean, sometimes you can uh, feel the things that they're talking about, but at the end of the day, how is that benefiting you of knowing how these energies are working? You know, are they telling you, hey, you know, you should spend time praying, or you should spend time meditating? You know, praying is talking with Christ and the Most High. Meditating is walking with Christ and the Most High, because you use the power of projection from your third eye, your magi eye, the imagination eye, to project images for you to have an encounter with Christ or whatever kind of higher spirit it might be. You know, a higher form of you, a better version of you, right? I'm talking too much, man. My mouth is getting dry. uh, but that's how it works, you know, and that helps you out. There's also a thing of that we communicate with ourselves. Like, we have the higher self, which is really a better version of us that is aiding the lower version of us on our path, you know, so we could be communicating with each other hand in hand. You know, it's just the higher self with the lower self, right? So we use the Christ energy as a guiding point through our lives, right? And that's how I view it, you know. There's so many ways you can view Christ as a whole, you know. Some people view Christ as a person that was here, right? You know, and that he did great things, but sadly, Christ knew this. Sadly, Christ has been turned into an idol and used as a tool of, oh, you need to give your life to Christ and that's it. Then you're saved, right? But they don't teach you. They don't teach you the teachings of Christ. That is right in the Bible, to look within yourself. How do you go within yourself? Through meditation. You know, you're not going to experience that kind of uh, walk with Christ without meditation, right? We got praying, but we also got meditation. Meditation is a key tool in our daily lives to communicate in us better. Oh, well, you're going to conjure up spirits. Well, of course you're going to come across demons, because it's going to be within you. You're going to have scars within you. There's a lot of people that have scars and traumas in their life, and they form as spirits within you. And you have to conjure them up out of you. Forgive that spirit, because it is a part of you. Forgive it. Don't push it away to the side, because that's what you've done for years and years and years with these traumas in your life. You have to look at that being in the face and say, hey, I forgive you. And with that shadow being you, you're forgiving yourself in the process. So you're forgiving yourself at the same time. And then you surrender that trauma that was in your life. You surrender it to the Creator. And then you're healed and you're purified. Getting goosebumps from that again. So that's what we have to utilize. Meditation is a tool to better your life, not to be possessed by demons, right? It's to help better your life. Same with yoga. So many people are demonizing yoga. Holy cow, man. You know, you have to realize what you're doing, right? Yoga is a practice of stretching your ligaments, right? I mean, if you really want to know what happens when you don't stretch when you get old, watch old people, and they're just walking like little penguins with their crutches and their canes and their walk carts. You know why they're walking that way? Because they didn't stretch at all. They did not stretch. So now they're whittle woggling and they can't move. And that's what happens when you don't stretch. So you got to stretch. You know, that's the power of yoga. I love doing DDP yoga. It's the best thing ever, man. It stretches your ligaments out. You use reverse dynamics, which is basically where you imagine that you have weight in your arm, so you're tensing up your arm, so you're moving that blood circulation. So that's what you're doing when you're moving your arm, and then you're stretching and just moving all of your ligaments and realigning your body, right? You know, the best thing ever, man, at least with DDP yoga, is it realigns your back. So like a lot of us, you know, not me personally, I'm always on my feet 24/7, but some people are in chairs like for 8 or 9 hours or something like that. So they're in a slats position, so it hurts their back. So if they did DDP yoga or a form of yoga, it's going to realign their back. So you know it will basically stretch your back out and align it back into place. So you got to use exercises, man. It fascinates me so much that when something is attached to something, this is why I said that that things are so divided, right? You hear yoga as a new age concept, boom, it's demonized. You hear that that meditation is a new age thing, boom, it's demonized, right? And it's sad because I mean Christ taught us to go into that sacred place. What is that sacred place? All right, awesome, man. Yep, if I help you on your journey, man, that's a good thing. Research is key in everything, man. So awesome. So let's see, where's it going? Oh yeah, the sacred place. You know, Christ talked about that sacred place or that set apart place. It is that place between the physical and the spiritual, right? You know, the New Age people call it the fourth dimension, right? The spirit realm. You know, we go into that sacred place to help heal those spirits that are within us, right? It's all about the healing process. It's all about making the best version of you. And I'm probably going to go ahead and end this video on that. There's so many other, oh man, there's so many other scriptures I want to read. I might read a little more scriptures before I get out of here. This video is already almost 2 hours long. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and have to end this. I don't want to be in 2 hours. So yeah, so at the end of the day, with all this stuff I've talked about, hopefully I covered everything I want to talk about here. But at the end of the day, you know, we're always performing some kind of craft in our life, some kind of witchcraft in our life. But it's the choice that you make. It is your will and intent that you make within your life. You know, whether you want to have a positive life, whether you want to have a negative life, whether you want to sell your soul and do blood rituals, or whether you want to better your life and go within yourself and learn about the I am and learn about what Christ was talking about, the purest of the blood, the anointing of the Spirit, you know, the anointing of the Spirit going within you. You know, are you going to focus outside self or within self? You know, I'm all about going within, and that's where you're going to try and find, where you are going to find true peace is within you, is within you. You know, Christ said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one goes to the Father except through me. You know, no matter how many times I say it, it's all about the I am. I am that I am, right? And it's all about making the best version of you, learning the power of healing, the power of forgiveness, the power of surrender is key. And you got to have that foundation. Christ is my foundation. Christ can be a good foundation for you. You got to have a go home to place, that sacred place. So yeah, man, beautiful stuff, man. So awesome. Thank you all for joining me in the chat. I hope that this helped you guys out in some way, shape, or form, man. Because at the end of the day, man, life gets crazy. It really does. And especially through October, man, it's crazy, man. So much rituals take place. And like I said, you know, during October, and just that's just all what I've been doing myself is just getting into that sacred place, listening to the body, listening to the spirit, you know, and just keeping that energy in, and that intent in. I told people, you know, that I have magnets around me, right? I don't have magnets around me right now, but When I go to bed, I have magnets over. I'll put magnets in my pocket to just kind of strengthen that magnetic field because we're getting hit with all this stuff. I'm actually looking at ways to create some kind of like clothing or something like that, so I can have magnets and copper within my clothing, and it helps that magnetic field around you. It's a very bizarre thing, but it's something that you really have to look at. The magnets and copper create an energy field, so it bounces all of the stuff off. Because sometimes when you hear the ringing of the ears, it's a change of frequency. Because like say we got like 4G towers from cell phone towers, right? Those things are just they can be massive. And then you got the router signals and all that stuff. So if you have that magnetic around you, right? We already have magnetic field around us, but if you have real magnets and copper around you as well, it's going to deter um, a lot of that frequency away from you, so you're not being consumed by all of the stuff. Plus, the spirits and all that stuff as well can really cause a lot of chaotic confusion within your life. So at the end of the day, and that's what this is all about, is learning about witchcraft. We use it daily, but it's the choices that you make within that. The will and intent. And that's what it's all about. What is your will and intent? What are you sending out to the universe? New moon is a perfect time of sending your will and intent out, what you want to see in your life. Full moon, which is what we have now, reflect on your life. Look at your life and see if you are where you need to be at in your life. How are you benefiting? How is life benefiting you in your job environment, in your relationships, things of that nature? Is your life good? Do you need to change something? Things of that nature. And then after you see that, you can see the changes you need to make in the full moon, and then go back to the new moon again, set out those will and intent and those changes, and go from there. And it's learning the tools, right? A lot of the stuff is perceived new age, but it's learning the tools to benefit you, to create the best version of you, right? To create the best version of you, you got to utilize tools to help you out in life, right? So quit looking outside yourself. Quit trying to look towards others for answers, right? Um, if they're not telling you to go within yourself to better your life, right? And learn that that there is a loving creator within you, then they're not teaching you what they should be teaching you, right? They're just giving you delightful words to con you back in. Like I said with tarot cards, right? They'll send you a message, you'll accept that spirit, and then you'll just keep coming back for more and more and more. Those who truly love you are going to tell you to go within yourself. Don't look at me. Don't look at me, right? Don't focus me as a person that is above you. Walk beside me. Let's learn together and let's move forward. Let's move forward in the research, and let's move forward in learning the best version of you and finding out what works for you. Everybody walks in all different forms of life. Everybody on their path will have some kind of different viewpoint on things. Let's see. Alfred says it's natural, pure magic of secret words. Yes, very true. And like I said, it's all about the will and intent. All about the will and intent. I mean, if you want to send love to people, then that's what you're going to do. If you want to send hate to people, that's what you're going to do. Whether you're aware of it or not, that's where you really have to focus on yourself more. When you observe, I'm a deep observer. I'm what you would call a dreamer. Where I have so much thoughts that go through my mind. I look for solutions of every kind, and things like that. So I'm an observer. So when I see people talking about other people or gossiping and things like that, it's a reflection that that they don't love themselves. They aren't seeing the bigger picture. That we could be helping each other out. I'm always a voice for those that surround me, of saying, hey, what kind of solution can we do to change this environment, whether it be work related or religious related, or just a basic topic of whatever. What kind of solution are we creating? If it's not bettering your life, if it's not bettering my life, why are you wasting your words um, to that. You know, why are you sending those enchantments to people? You know, it's not benefiting nobody. It's look for the solutions. That is the key word, looking for solutions. So I got to go ahead and end on that. I'm already getting at the 2-hour mark. So love yourself. Keep shining bright. Thank you all for joining me in the chat room. I appreciate it very much. But at the end of the day, it's all about learning about the best version of you, using the techniques that have been stolen from us, right? And utilizing them for good. Utilizing for good. Praying, meditation is key. Sending out your will and intent is key. Learning to better your life is key. Finding a foundation in your life is key. Christ is mine. It can be yours as well. Connecting back to the Creator is key. So, love yourself. Keep shining bright. I'll talk to you all later.